Hello, everyone. Laura Steveko here. And those of you that follow me know that I have a really big passion for plant wellness. And I am so excited and honored to have a woman who's become a very dear friend of mine join me today. Her name is Penny Sampler. And Penny has an incredible story of how plants have had an impact on her life. And I just could not go another day without having her share that story for the people that I'm connected with. So, what I thought we would do is we would talk a little bit about her background, her health journey, and really what happened when she put plants into her body. So, with that said, I'm just going to introduce you, Penny. I would love for you to share a little bit about your background and just who you are as a person so people
Mhm.
can get to know you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me, Laura. Um, so my name is Penny, and I am by training. I'm an occupational therapist, and when I was an occupational therapist, I focused. My favorite department was traumatic brain injury. So. I started in the ICU. So if they were on the news the night before, they were my patients the next day. And it was really exciting and fun and intense. And I loved my job. And then in the afternoons, I worked in the neonatal ICU. So I went from the really intense big people to the really intense little people. And then I've done everything in between, like spinal cord injury, orthopedics, and then skilled nursing. So I've had wide experience in my OT world, which I absolutely love. But I was trained in the medical model where you find a symptom and treat it. And I kind of took a break from OT because I applied for a job as a pharmaceutical rep after I had a stomach surgery that was related to me having Crohn's disease. Just required a lot of lift. My job was very physical and it required a lot of lifting. So while I loved and still love being an OT, the pharmaceutical position kind of fell into my lap, and I peddled drugs to doctors and physicians and called on pharmacies um, just to take a break for my body. And it was really fun insight for me because I actually got to call on my doctors that I actually saw as a patient and see a whole nother angle. Because as an OT, I wanted my patients to have a very comfortable session with me. So I would encourage them to take pain medicine, or perhaps they would get anxious because they didn't have control of their body, or all different things. I wanted them to have an ideal situation. So then I promoted and sold pharmaceuticals from that angle. And then I can't remember the years, but since I was 16, I've had Crohn's, and it got progressively worse and debilitating the older I got. And so I've taken every single medication under the sun, every single pain medicine that can go in your veins or in your booty or in your mouth. I've taken all of it. So I feel like I have a really unique angle on the medical world. Um, so after I have 3 children. I left my pharmaceutical job when I had kids and kind of took a break from working there for a while. Went back into occupational therapy later in life, but in that in between time there, do you want me to keep going, or do you want to ask for a question?
No, I mean, I think this is fabulous. And one of the things that really connected with me with you was obviously who you are as a person. But we have that commonality in working in the traditional medical model, right? So I worked in pharmaceuticals as well. So I used to sell pain management drugs as well. So it's just kind of just a really unique connection that we have, and then how that really has impacted your journey. So you mentioned Crohn's disease, and
Mhm.
a lot of times I'll hear, that people have Crohn's disease. But what I didn't know was the impact and the severity, um, and how it could really like impact someone's life. So if you could tell us about your story
Sure.
and the journey that you've gone through, because you've come out, on the other side of it. And I think what you have to share is very worthy, and people will appreciate it.
Yes, I am a walking miracle to start. My Crohn's disease is unique. They say unique, and that it affected my stomach. Most people with Crohn's disease, it affects their colon, and so you hear about people having their colon removed, and then they have an ostomy or whatever. But my colon was very healthy. It was just my stomach and my proximal small intestine, meaning what was closest to my stomach. So what would happen for me is because of all the inflammation that I had, that prolonged inflammation would turn into like a callus or scar tissue, and then my food couldn't pass. And so my symptoms were excruciating pain because I couldn't get food through, or I vomited all the time. People thought that I had an eating disorder because I would run to the bathroom when I was at work. As a mom, I had like 3 kids in car seats, and I'd pull over and throw up on the side of the road and, okay, guys, let's go to the park. I mean, I think one thing I did have is that when you're that sick and you have that much pain on a daily basis, if you sit in bed and think about it, it just makes it worse. So my whole goal was just to keep moving, just keep going to get my mind off what was going on inside my body. So my first surgery was an emergency surgery, and it was before I had even met my husband, but my stomach swelled shut, and even water wasn't getting through at that point. So I literally had surgery the next day, and they opened up and put a new hole in the bottom of my stomach. I do believe in hindsight that my doctors were amazing and they did what they knew how to do at the time. But I also firmly believe that, nobody knew what Crohn's was. I'd never heard of Crohn's before, and I worked in the hospital. It was not a household name when I was diagnosed with Crohn's. So by putting this new hole in my stomach, they thought they were alleviating pressure. But really what happened was now I had this new hole in my stomach that didn't have a flap. And so all my acid and food would reflux back up into my stomach. And so that new hole started having its own problems and just getting ulcerated, and, became a bleeding, like piles and piles of bleeding ulcers. It was gross if you saw it. But then that one became swollen. And so then I had 2 swollen exits out of my stomach. So eating was always very difficult for me. And it was not necessarily related about what I ate. It was just food, period, causing this inflammation. So, your question was about the severity. So many people, I did have, I think a total of 18 inches removed from my small intestine. And then, as time went on, I had most of my stomach removed. We can get to that in a little bit, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, just keep sharing.
Okay. So, I was probably, I don't know how many years in, when one of the drugs that they give to people who have an autoimmune disease, the goal of it, because they believe autoimmune disease is it's your immune system that's overreacting and fighting itself. And so their idea is if we eliminate the immune system, then you feel better. And so I was taking the very first drug like this was an IV. And my doctor at the time was actually very conservative with his treatment. So I didn't take that for very long. And I ended up next on, it was a shot that I put in my leg. And I resisted it for as long as possible. I went to Mayo Clinic. The guy at Mayo Clinic told me I should be in a wheelchair. And I was like, what are you talking about? He was not very encouraging whatsoever. I didn't get a lot of love as far as encouragement in my prognosis from any of my doctors, as wonderful as they were. But it was about that time that I started thinking, why in the world do I want my immune system to go away? This is crazy. And when I say, people think, oh, that means you get sick. But I had my gums started bleeding, or I got a cyst on my hand. Like just weird things happened that your immune system fights that, most people don't have to deal with. And then I did ended up getting pneumonia twice. They make you, when you take this drug, you have to take all these vaccinations, the pneumonia vaccine and the TB and all the things. And still managed to get pneumonia twice. And so when I did that, they took me off that drug. And I have a friend that was I lovingly called her my crazy essential oil friend because I, jokingly, I made fun of plant medicine, and that's old school. And, trained in the medical model, I know what I'm talking about, and I know my drugs. And when I had the bleeding gums, that was the first thing. I was shocked because I went through this whole ordeal with my dentist, and they said, you have no plaque, you have no buildup. They put antibiotics under my gums, like nothing. And they were still bleeding. And so my friend told me about swishing an oil. And when I went back to the dentist the next time, which they had me on like every 2-month visits because it was that bad, the woman went in, she thought she picked up the wrong chart when she saw my gums. She was like, oh my gosh, Penny, what has changed? And I took in this bottle of oil. I said, I started swishing this at night. And basically that shocked my doctors and it shocked me. So then I had that cyst. It was like a ganglion cyst that wouldn't go away. And she gave me an oil for that. And the ultimate convincer for me was when I had that pneumonia, I actually had a persistent pocket of fluid on my lung. And it's painful. I don't know if you've had pneumonia that doesn't go away. I had that radiating pain down my arm and it wouldn't go away. And basically there was enough fluid on my lung that they were going to do a pleurocentesis, which is where they take that big old needle, just like an amniocentesis for women who know what that is. And they were going to draw the fluid off my lung. And I've had every procedure there is, and I was scared to death of that. I mean, a lot can go wrong in a pleurocentesis. And so I called my friend on a Monday. The thing was scheduled for Wednesday, and I just started slathering my lung area and drinking lemon oil. And I kid you not, I got on the table. I'm in the scrubs. They've got that big nasty needle ready, and they get out the what's the little machine? They get out the X-ray machine to see where to jab me, and they're like, the fluid's gone. There's not enough fluid here. And I mean, it had been over a year that we had been taking antibiotics and we'd been doing all the things to try to get rid of this fluid. And so I became a believer in oils. And at that point, my science nerdiness had to know why. Like, this is not snake oil, but I need to know why it worked. So I just kind of started studying essential oils and why they worked and how could I rectify this with my training and my medical experience, which doesn't. And I just continued adding, more oils to different things. And that's what made me open to learning about hemp wellness, just understanding the practicality that plants are made perfectly for our bodies. And it's been such an exciting journey.
So can we talk about after your surgeries and kind of what had happened to you physically that really had a significant impact on your life?
Yeah. So, yes. So after I had to get off that medicine because of the pneumonia, my last option that I had been putting off forever was they were going to remove pretty much most of my stomach, which was very scary because nobody could really tell me what that looked like on the other side. If you lose your colon, you have an ostomy, but if you lose your stomach, what does that mean for eating? Am I going to be normal? I had no idea. So it was basically last case. That's the only option. So I had 90% of my stomach removed. The only part they kept was the top because my food didn't rest on that. So that part of my stomach remained healthy. And they basically just took the bottom off and then made it. It's almost like having a gastric bypass surgery for weight loss, but they just didn't band it. With that, they band it to try to keep it small. Mine, I wanted it to grow, which is actually a real miracle. Your body is made to heal. So while it started off really small, I've had scopes that say, it's still small, but I was eating a grape at a time after that surgery. And now you could have a meal with me and never know that I have any problems. So I just have to be careful about certain foods. But from that surgery, I went home and I was home for 5 weeks, and I was having wound care twice a day. In my previous surgeries, I'd been back to work and good by 6 weeks. And I knew that things weren't going right. And so my home healthcare nurse was amazing. She was an angel from heaven. And she wanted me to go see a wound care specialist because my incision was starting to, it wasn't only not healing, it was starting to pop open. And that is a sign that you have infection on the inside of your body. So I went to a wound care doctor, and they took one look at me and gave me 2 hours to grab a bag and come back to the hospital. And I was covered up an infection. And so I was septic. They couldn't believe my organs hadn't shut down. They couldn't believe I was walking around. I'm like, I mean, I've been driving carpool today. It was unbelievable, the things that I was doing that I probably shouldn't have been doing. But I think also, you talk about Crohn's, for people who have Crohn's, you don't know what normal is. And so you just keep moving. You just keep functioning. So I can't say I was like this great martyr. I didn't know that I should have felt bad. I was just putting one foot in front of the other. So from that, now they admitted me to the hospital, and I had 6 or 7, 8 more surgeries, but like one a week for 5 weeks to try to find where the damage was and to repair that damage, and then to actually remove all the pockets of infection that were all over my body, that was not a very hopeful prognosis. I had so much infection. I had multiple people looking inside my stomach all the time. I mean, I had when they're looking inside your belly and you're right here, the front row view, it's pretty gross, and not comfortable with people prodding around there. So when I left, they left me open all that time because they knew I had infection that was unresolved, and they don't want to close you up with infection that you know of. So I had what's called a wound vac, and so it kept me open without letting me seal up. I had 10 antibiotics on 2 different poles. I had a temporary ostomy that was allowing wherever they thought there was a hole to heal. I had PICC lines. I had drains across the bottom. I had lots of stuff. It took 3 people to get me to the restroom. And I lost 40 pounds. So I was, not only uncomfortable to walk, but I was just a waif. I mean, I just didn't have any energy or strength or muscle mass at all. And so then when I went home, which was a miracle, I healed. And the problem that I then had, my Crohn's, felt as though it was resolving because I got rid of the infected or diseased stomach. But I had so much scar tissue pain because I had so many adhesions and scar tissue from all the surgeries in my stomach. So I was on after I was discharged from the hospital, I still had 2 more surgeries after that. So it would heal completely. And then I'd go back and they'd open it up again over the course of the next 2 or 3 years. And so I was basically just on opiates. And one of my doctors, my rheumatologist, he said, "I'm sorry, you're just going to be on opiates for the rest of your life. That's just the cards you've been dealt," is what he told me. Mm-hmm. And, I've had friends in that situation. I had patients that had that, and we all know what this opiate crisis is all about. And I didn't want to be another number in that story. So for Crohn's disease, they say that you can't take ibuprofen because it ulcerates your stomach, even though I really didn't have a stomach. But opiates were safer in their opinion. So I had just a lifetime supply coming to me. And so my justification would be I would take, 6, 8, 10 ibuprofen one day, and then 6, 8, 10 opiates the next day. I even called the pain clinic because I wanted off of them. The pain clinic is not created to help you get off of them. The pain clinic would not accept me because their job is to manage your pain medicine. So I really had no options. I was really defeated. And it was at the time that a girl reached out to me and asked if I'd ever taken CBD. And I said, "I've heard of it. If it's legal, I'll try it." And in the time between ordering it and receiving it, I knew it was an essential oil of the hemp plant. And so I knew that part of it, but I really wanted to investigate the company and the ingredients, as we know, matter. And with Crohn's, any little change, I had a very bland, very regimented kind of diet. So any little change could kind of send me off the deep end. And everything that I looked at checked all the boxes for this product. And so the minute I got it, I just started taking it. I took it twice a day, and I rubbed a topical cream. And as I weaned off my opiates, and my dose was increasing daily, by the fifth day of taking CBD, I was off all my opiates. And not only that, the real beauty was I had several times tried to get off the opiates, but I was definitely going through withdrawals, and you feel real fluish for a couple days. I had zero withdrawals. I just literally went like, to where I still have now 4.5 years. I've taken CBD every single day. And I haven't taken opiates since. So it's a miracle, because opiates too, if you've been on them or had a friend on them, like, you have to continue to increase your dose. Like, your body increases its tolerance. So if I was taking 8 to 9 opiates a day, I mean, they ultimately shut your heart down. So that's why you die of opiates. And so, my heart rate would just probably be getting lower and lower and lower. I mean, it's scary. I have no idea. I have no idea where I would be 4 years later if I hadn't found CBD. And my body loves it. My body processes it well. My liver is not being harmed by it. I feel better than I have felt since I was 16 years old. So it's wonderful.
I mean, that's amazing, right? That you feel that good. And so I just really thank you so much for sharing your story, because, you know, every time I because you've told it a couple times, I've heard it, and every time I hear it, it amazes me, and I learn more and more about what you've been through. And it's real. One of the things that our goal, is to give people hope in what a plant can offer. And thinking about the, like you even said, the addiction to the epidemic that we have with opioids right now, the toxicity of people using things chronically. And you were really, really sick. And the power of how the plants have come in and helped you feel better, back when you were dealing with infections and then with pain, it's absolutely miraculous. And I know that this is one of the things that you're excited to share with people. So I just wanted to thank you for coming on today. And if anyone has any questions about, how could you use the plant? How could you use hemp? How could you use CBD to help you with, pain, or really anything else? Inflammation, obviously, right? Because the inflammation is the root of most things, and CBD is a powerful anti-inflammatory. Just reach out to Penny or I. But Penny, thank you so much for coming on and
Can
sharing.
I add? Do you mind if I add one thing?
Oh, add whatever.
Story. Well, I just firmly believe that, like you hit on that inflammation point, that if I had known when I was 16 about CBD, firmly believe that I could have prevented all of that, because it's an anti-inflammatory, and I had an inflammatory bowel disease, and all of my surgeries were based on prolonged inflammation that turned to scar tissue. So, in my opinion, I have my kids, I have everybody I know on it, because it is a preventative wellness product. You could prevent something you don't even know you're preventing. And that just speaks volumes to me, I love talking to people who have Crohn's, because more and more people have it. And I'm like, immediately, like, just start it now. Any sort of inflammatory issue. It's amazing, the power of what it could do and what it could prevent in the future. And we don't even know all the things that they're going to uncover. That's what I told my parents. I was like, just take it, and someday you'll thank me, because they're going to continue to figure out more and more things it's good for. So just
Well,
take it.
and that's like the amazing thing too. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because it is, sometimes I'll have people say, well, how's it going to help me? I don't have any pain or whatever, but it's just a powerful anti-inflammatory, neuroprotectant. And like you said, the research continues, and it's a plant. It's from the earth. And we were created, our bodies were created to live off the earth, to heal off the earth. And so it's safe. And, a lot of people think it's new, but it's not new. It's not new. It's been used medicinally for thousands and thousands of years. It's just now resurfaced with the legalization of hemp again. Thank goodness that we were given back this plant to help our bodies operate as they should. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because it's a preventative measure. So, someone like me, when I started using it, I was like, oh yeah, I feel great. but then I realized how it's helping me internally, but it also did help me feel calmer. It did
Right.
help me with some of the aches and pains. So I appreciate you bringing that up. So,
Yeah.
but that's all I have, unless you have anything else, Penny. But
No,
I'm really grateful for. I mean, you gave us not only just your story, but a lot of education as well with your medical background. So I appreciate that as well. So thank you so much. And again, if anyone has any questions, please reach out.
thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Bye.